جنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة المباركة.
محمد وعلى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
اللهم صل على محمد.
सुनाई किसने जिंदा में लोरी सकीना सो रही है सुनाई जिसने जिंदा में लोरी सकीना सो रही है। खुदारा जोर से बोले न कोई सकीना सो रही है। कहाँ बानू ने उठो शाहजादी हुई क्या बात क्यों मादर से रूठी। उठो बाबा का सर आया है बीबी। उठो बाबा का सर आया है बीबी। मगर जिंदान की हर दीवार बोली सकीना सो रही है। तुम्हारे गोशवारे मिल गए हैं। दरे जिंदान सारे खुल गए हैं। रिहाई मिल गई जाती हूँ घर को। रिहाई मिल गई जाती हूँ घर को। मगर सज्जाद की आवाज आई सकीना सो रही है। न अब मारेगा कोई भी तमाचे। न होंगे फिर से रुखसार नीले। गला बांधा न जाएगा रसन में। गला बांधा न जाएगा रसन में। जो आया शिमर तो उसे कहूंगी सकीना सो रही है। हुए जब शाम के साए भी गहरे। परिंदे चहचहाते जा रहे थे। कहाँ बानू ने उड़ते परिंदों। कहाँ बानू ने उड़ते परिंदों। सदाएं रोक लो कुछ देर अपनी सकीना सो रही है। बनाने कब जब सज्जाद उठे। तो वो नादे अली दोहरा रहे थे, बंधे हाथों से चाहा कब्र खोदे, बंधे हाथों से चाहा कब्र खोदे। अचानक पाँव की जंजीर बोली, सकीना सो रही है। सुनाई किसने जिंदा में लोरी, सकीना सो रही है। खुदारा जोर से बोले न कोई, सकीना सो रही है।
मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
शाह की लाडली जब कैदिए जिंदान हुई, रोई घबराई बहुत और परेशान हुई। कैद खाने की घुटन मौत का सामान हुई। अरे जान लगता था कि मासूम की बेजान हुई। लाश शबीर की मकतल में तड़प जाती थी, कैद खाने से जो बची की सदा अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा, अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा। कैदी कहता है कोई, कैदी कहता है कोई, कोई यतीमा बाबा, अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा। मैं बयां कैसे करूं अपनी मुसीबत तुमसे, क्या करूं अपने तमाचों की शिकायत तुमसे। सुनती हूँ दादी ने खाया था तमाचा बाबा, अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा। नील रुख सारों पे बीनाई भी जिसकी कम हो, उम्र हो 4 बरस और कमर में खम हो, आपने देखी है क्या, आपने देखी है क्या ऐसी ज़ईफ़ा बाबा। अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा। आप थे दूर तो मैं सारे सितम सहती रही, रो परी कूफे के दरबार में मैं सह ना सकी, रो परी कूफे के दरबार में मैं सह ना सकी। आपके सामने जब, आपके सामने जब शिम्र ने मारा बाबा, अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा। वो तो बीमार थी मर जाती सफर में आके, अरे दफन करते उस बाजार में भैया कैसे, ये तो अच्छा हुआ आई नहीं सुगरा बाबा। अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा। अब मुझे कोई सकीना नहीं कहता बाबा। खुदा मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Mu'mineen, can I please request the Marhuma Fizza Hassan and for all المرحومين المرحومات and for all the Shuhada, Surah Al-Mubarakah Al-Fatiha. Also, Mu'mineen, can I please kindly request that as we will be expecting others to join during the course of the program, if you could kindly please move as far forward as possible to fill the gaps towards the front of the hall with the recitation of Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Ahsantum. Mu'mineen, we are now drawing close to the day of Arba'een, the pinnacle of the Azadari. Every year, thousands of individuals from all over the globe travel to Karbala during this time to perform the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah Imam Hussein alayhi salam. To encourage our young Zainabis and Hussainis to observe Arba'een and pay homage to the martyrs of Karbala, Al-Mahdi Madrasa is arranging a special children's Arba'een Majlis program on Sunday the 26th of September 2021, which is the 18th of Safar 1443 AH, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30. This will consist of presentations from the children of Wessex Jamaat, as well as the Julus, or the Arba'een Walk of Grief. To register your child for this, please see the instructions that will be circulated by email tonight, inshallah. The deadline for registration for this is Tuesday, the 21st of September. Mu'min, we are most blessed this evening to have with us Sheikh Muhammad Hilli to deliver the majlis for us this evening. Can I please request that we all welcome him with the loudest of your salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونستعين به ونتوكل عليه، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وخاتم الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين، سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد.
قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the purification of the souls, for the enlightenment of the hearts, for the acceptance of the deeds, and for the hastening of the reappearance of the awaited Savior. Ajjal Allah Ta'ala Farajah Sharif, enlighten your souls, purify your hearts with the recitation of salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected elders, sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaykum assalam.
The status and the position of bulugh is one that is emphasized within the teachings of the religion of Islam. And it is connected to both jurisprudential, spiritual, moral, and social aspects within the life of a Muslim. Many times we have conversations regarding a person reaching the age of bulugh, whether they are males or females, the age by which they reach bulugh, the responsibilities that they are supposed to be performing, the duties that is upon their shoulders, questions that people may have regarding why males get to the age of bulugh much later than females. Without a shadow of a doubt, those who've gone through bulugh, those who are already in the adult stage, will tell you and I, many others, that it's a special time of their lives, that they're entrusted with a major responsibility. Now they're looked at as an individual whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold accountable for their deeds. Yet the reality today, when we speak to many of our youngsters, when we speak to some of the parents, the stage and the age and the position of bulugh is a matter that has caused confusion. It's also a matter that some people have questions. It's also an area that perhaps some of the parents have not necessarily looked at, not necessarily understood. Because the realization that emerges is there are mistakes that are happening when it comes to the discussion regarding bulugh. There is also an area that some parents have come forward and said that it is a matter of concern for them. And that is that after bulugh, there are a number of questions that the youth, their youngsters are asking, given the challenges that they're facing. Therefore, it's an important subject to discuss, but mainly looking at key practical points in which parents can benefit from, in which those who are looking to get married can benefit from, and even grandparents who have already had children who have passed through puberty or bulugh, because they're different as we will come to analyze, maybe are able to indeed benefit when it comes to passing on this towards their grandchildren and what they seek to indeed expect to go through. The idea that emerges is bulugh is the age in which a young male or female attains a position of taklif. One of our ulama, Sayyid Ibn Tawus, Allah Ta'ala maqama, he says, in my eyes, it is not taklif. Taklif means obligation. Taklif means duty. He says, in my eyes, bulugh is not taklif. It is tashrif. It is a matter of honor. Because he says, let's change it from the negative connotation to a positive connotation. Instead of saying that now this boy or this girl is what? Is to be held accountable, that salah is wajib upon them, fasting is wajib upon them, taqleed is wajib upon them. Very true, this is all applicable. He says, instead of this, let's discuss it with the viewpoint that Allah is now honoring them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now rewarding them more. It is a matter that they are being blessed with, that now they are considered baligh. The question that many people ask is, what is the age of bulugh? Where and how do people reach bulugh? Because this is an area, in my humble opinion, that majority of people have got wrong. And I am pretty sure, and Allah knows best that I could be mistaken, the next 3 minutes when I mention this, there will be many faces behind those masks who will be surprised. Yes? Because today you ask people, what is the age of bulugh when it comes to girls? Everybody will say what? 9. Do you agree? Not true. What do you mean? 9 in which calendar? Because the realization today is, many will come forward and say that we have been taught when my daughter reaches the age of 9 in the Gregorian calendar. True? Because how many people celebrate their birthdays when it comes to other calendars? It's very rare that you see this, isn't it? Many people say that my daughter, when she becomes 9, if her birthday is, for example, the 18th of September, and the 18th of September comes, and she becomes 9, this is when she has to wear hijab, and she has to pay khums, and she has to perform namaz. True? This is when majority of people, unfortunately, are mistaken. According to our ulama, the majority of our maraja, including His Eminence Ayatollah Sistani Hafidhullah, the age of bulugh for a female is not 9 in the Gregorian calendar, is 9 in the Hijri calendar. Yes? Someone says, what does that mean in reality? What does that actually translate to? It translates to 8 years. Yes? And what? 8 years, 8 months, and 20 days. When it comes to the Gregorian. Yes? Somebody says, how do I know? What do I do? It is best, therefore, to act on caution. Yes, therefore, first recognition is that the age when it comes to bulugh may differ when it comes to the understanding of the people. What about boys? It is well known that some people unfortunately think that when it comes to males, they attain bulugh at the age of 15, isn't it? But that is not necessarily the case. Because as we know, Sharia al-Islamiyya has highlighted that for the males, there has to be one sign. And that one sign that emerges, that is sufficient for them to be considered baligh. Remember, when I held the course for youngsters this year, or last year during COVID time, for the children or for the boys at the age of bulugh, when I asked them what should be the signs that you should be looking for, many would come forward and say, when my voice becomes more coarse, when it becomes more like adults. Do you agree? Many said, when my voice changes, I have become baligh. Not true. This is not one of the signs for bulugh, isn't it? This is not. Someone says, no. Okay, very well. When I start to have hair under my arms, in the armpits. Not true. Yes? The recognition is education and awareness is of the utmost importance in this regard, and there is a need to have honest, heart-to-heart conversations. What are the signs? Of course, it is well known that when it comes to males, the discharge that they may have, yes, the so-called wet dreams, this is one sign, even if it happens before 15. Yes, it may happen at the age of 12, it may happen at the age of 13, it may happen at the age of 14. Yes. When it comes to Amaraja, they say, when it comes to hair which is not fine in the private area, that is also a sign. When it comes to His Eminence, Ayatollah Sistani, Hafidhahullah, he has an opinion which, of course, some other Maraja may not. He says, when it comes to facial hair, that is not na'im, that is quite clear, yes, that it is quite evident and visible. This is also a sign in belief. And of course, there is the age of 15. If none of these happen, and the age of 15 comes about. 15 in which calendar? Hijri calendar. Yes. And for this, it's 14 what? 14 years, 6 months, and 15 days. This is where, if none of these signs have been seen, then the male becomes baligh. Question is bulugh the same as puberty? Why? Because there are those who come forward and say that, you know what, my daughter has not yet reached the age of puberty. And they consider puberty to be the same as bulugh. The religion of Islam comes forward and says, bulugh is not necessarily linked to puberty. It is a special state that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designated, because you have what? Adolescence. Bulugh is part of adolescence. Adolescence has many stages. There are physiological changes that happen in the body of a male or female, right? There are psychological changes as well. They feel a need to be heard, to be recognized. There begins the presence and the feelings regarding the opposite gender and so on. These are part of being an adolescent. But puberty and bulugh may not necessarily be at the same age. Question that some people have had is, why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the age of bulugh for females 9, whereas for males it's at least 2 or 3 or even up to 6 years later? Why? Is this fair? Have you been asked this question? No doubt. There are those who come forward and said that, this doesn't make sense. My daughter is only 9. Month of Ramadan, we get this, don't we? Month of Ramadan is the most common time where people object to this. How can my 9-year-old fast? It's very difficult. How can she observe in the heat? Or for example, back in the time when we had fasting till the time of 9:30, 18 hours, 19 hours, there are objections. People say, how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this young child of mine go through this difficulty? The answer to this is, Allah wa ta'ala has created each and every one of us. Do you agree? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given each and every one of us abilities. Why is it that when we come to this, we begin to question the creation of Allah. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala would not place obligation upon a female reaching the age of 9 unless and until He has given her the ability to do so. Sometimes we are quick to what? To rationalize everything. Maulana, give me proof from the aql is one of the most common questions some of the youth have today. Give me intellectual proof, give me rational proof for some of the ahkam, some of the Islamic rulings. The response is, my dear sister and brother, who told you there is rational basis for every ruling? From where did you get this? If you got it from the minbar, may Allah forgive the person who said it from the minbar. If you got it from your parents, there may be a mistake. If you got it from madrasa, there is a mistake. This is a fact. When it comes to Islamic rulings, they may not make sense. Hear it again. They may not make sense. This is what submission means. Well, now you come and tell me, oh, but no, we're being told everything in Islam makes sense. How is it that we have to pelt the pillars of shaitan 7 times? What makes sense? 6 or 7? Which one? Why is it that Salat al-Fajr is Ruk'atayn and Maghrib is 3? What makes sense here? The recognition today is that yes, we live in a world where everybody wants to be convinced about something, but there is an examination. There is an examination. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presented. Yes, you and I with these particular examinations and tests, so that those who are firm in their belief appreciate and are able to understand that this is the journey of this world. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, one of the ulama said beautifully, he said, don't look at it as a negative thing for a female. In fact, Allah is saying, I have given this female much more strength than the male. This female from the age of 9, she can do what she wants. Look at it the other way. Yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the sharaf to the female. He's saying what? You males, you need a little bit more time. You're not as ready as the females. The females are more ready in order to be able to discharge their duties, their responsibilities within the religion of Islam. One of the key areas, though, when it comes to the discussion surrounding bulugh, and this requires your attention because it's contemporary and it is a matter that's affecting many parents today, is that I have been asked, and many of you perhaps have been in these situations, parents who have children coming up to bulugh, parents who have people going through bulugh, and those who are after bulugh are raising objections, and that is, our children are not practicing their faith. My 10-year-old is not praying, daughter. My 15-year-old son is what? Is listening to haram music. My 13-year-old girl is refusing to wear hijab. Help. Today, parenting is arguably one of the most challenging tasks, isn't it? One of the most difficult responsibilities that a human being is going to have to perform. Because there are many out there who are struggling. There are many who are confused parents. And they are arguing that perhaps it's one of the most difficult times to be a parent. Do you agree? Because of the challenges that exist out there. Some say the challenges regarding movements such as LGBTQ+, movements such as feminism, liberalism, for example. Impact of friends, impact of social media, impact of those within Tashayyu who are casting doubts in the minds of our youngsters. Within Shias. Those who come forward and say the religion of Islam is a religion of peace and love. There is no hatred. Why do you do la'na? Why do you? For example, and then this child listens to this and says, you know what, that makes sense. We should be loving towards everyone, including Bani Umayyah and Bani Abbas. Why should we hate anybody? Because we are being told love, love, love. I say to them, 38 times Allah does la'na in the Quran for what? 38 times, yes. So someone says, okay, but surely I should be doing just love towards everyone. I say, who chooses? You and I, or the Ahl al-Bayt who did la'na themselves upon their enemies? Yes? In the recognition that each and every member of the Ahl al-Bayt would clearly come forward and what? Disassociate from the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, there are those who come say, we are struggling, we need help. I tell you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises those who are parents. Why? Because with this responsibility comes a lot of reward. Once I asked a group of parents, is parenting enjoyable? I looked around and many of their faces was what? Of worry, of stress. I say to them, how many of you as parents actually enjoy parenting? How many have come forward and said, this is amazing, this is a beautiful responsibility. I love it! Yes, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me a task to ensure that my son or daughter, I place as much effort that I possibly can. If I can't, then there are what? Imams of Ahl al-Bayt who are the best of the best, but their sons and daughters were not. Omar or Amr al-Atraf, you've heard of this man? Amr al-Atraf? Who is he? You should know him. He was the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This Amr al-Atraf came to Sayyid al-Shuhada. He said to him, Hussein, you are my brother. Don't fight. You're wasting your time. Did not support his brother, objected and stood against, and is considered by many historians as a person who went astray. He said to me, how? I said to you, we have Ja'far al-Karbala, the son of the Holy Tenth Imam. Very well known his story, isn't it? Yes. This particular individual who said, I am the Imam, who went and told the authorities about the presence of the 12th Holy Imam. He went and told the authorities about the presence of the 11th Holy Imam, and what? They came to arrest him, and so on. In fact, he was known as Ja'far the liar, son of the Imam. This does not in any shape or way take anything away from the brilliance of the Imams of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. That parents need to recognize that they have to do their best, but they need help. How many Jamaats in the world today have a parenting helpline? How many? You say, what? Parenting helpline? Why do we need it? Maulana, we're very good. We as parents will ensure that the principles we've been brought up with by our own parents, we will apply it to our children. True? How? This is not working today. In many ways, there are challenges in this regard, because we recognize that some of our youngsters, their way of thinking, their way of interaction, their discussion and analysis differs from the way we perhaps and our fathers and our forefathers were raised, isn't it? Each and every parent may need help. Why is it a taboo? But I should be able to do parenting. This is ABC. I should be able to raise my child. If I'm not, that means it's a deficiency. Who said that an individual automatically knows the principles of parenting? How do we know? Therefore, we need support mechanisms. We need people, we need institutions and organizations. We need avenues by which parents can call and say, help. I don't know what to do with my son and daughter. They're not praying. They're not performing their duties. What am I supposed to do? Is the first avenue Google? Or is it maybe try and find an alim here and there? Yes, the role of resident alim is amazing. But the resident alim is what? Only approached to give some advice. Whereas there is need for the alim and others to be involved within what? Within giving recommendations to parents, or workshops, or courses, or anything that enhances their abilities. Now, how do we answer this question? People say, as a parent, I'm struggling. My son or daughter is baligh, but they're not performing their duties. How is it that they're not? In order to understand this, I'm going to take you briefly through a journey, very few minutes, to understand what is it that we're missing. What is it that's making our children not listen to us? I, as a parent, say to my son, to my daughter, pray. Don't do this. Don't listen to this. Don't eat this. But then what? As the famous statement says, yes, they hear it from this side and it comes out the other. There's no obedience, so to speak, yes. Is that what we are looking for? One of the reasons is because our parenting style may be problematic. So to me, how? What are the different parenting styles? According to research and psychological studies and behavioral analysis of how people parent, there are 3 parenting styles. I'm going to mention them. You and I may relate to them as far as how we were brought up, or if you have children, you will relate to how you are bringing up your children. What are the parenting styles? Parenting styles means what? It means the way you interact with your child. There are three. The first parenting style is called authoritarian style. What is this authoritarian parent? An authoritarian parent is the parent who makes all the decisions in the family. Is a parent who expects the kids, the children, to follow without asking questions. And takes the children as inherently ignorant. Is a parent that has high expectations for the kids on whatever they want, and importantly, is a style of parenthood or parenting which acts upon only rewards and punishment. That is the system. Everything happens on reward, punishment. Reward, punishment. For example, you come to the room and you have said to your child to wash the dishes, and the child is watching TV. The authoritarian parent does what to the child? How dare you disobey me? No TV for 3 days. That's the authoritarian child. What does this do to the child? Yes? They make the children, according to studies, feel the lack of control of their lives and will only do things for the sake of their parents. They will not do things for the sake of the principle. And they will learn that the only way they could be doing things is through what? Punishment or reward? No other way. Those of us who are from Iraq, Arabs, may have heard this example of this man by the name of Mullah Alawi. Mullah Alawi has a number of sons. This Mullah Alawi says to his sons, I want you to pray. But they weren't very convinced about Salah. That they know that if they don't pray, there is what? The sandal. Yes? They know. Or the stick. So, every day for Fajr, he says, I want you to wake up for Fajr. They used to sleep on the roof, because it's hot in Iraq back in the time. And today, even. So they sleep on the roof. The kids, what they used to do is wake up, take it in turns. One of them wakes up and the others are asleep. They pour some water down the drain. He's sleeping downstairs. So he hears water, means they're doing wudu, means they're praying. Okay? So, after a while, he hears every day, water. They're waking up, they're praying. One day he says, let me inspect. He comes up, he sees one of his sons pouring water. He says, what are you doing? Son looks at him and says, can I tell you the truth? He says, yes. He said, all these time, we've been waking up, not for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Mullah Alawi. Shifyan Shah Mullah Alawi, yes? This is what we're doing, not because of Allah, because we fear your punishment. That is the authoritarian parent. That's the first style. The second style is the permissive style. What is the permissive style? This example. You enter the room, you see your son or daughter who has not washed the dishes and you've asked them to do so. You look at them and say, why haven't you done it? I'll do it later. It's okay. Don't worry. You can do it later. This is a kind of parent who avoids confrontation, is lenient, doesn't impose rules, and all that is mattering for them is the happiness of the child. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I want them to be happy. Yes. This is the permissive style of parenting. There is a third, and you're all hoping that this is a good one. Yes? This third one is very important. This third one is the authoritative, not authoritarian, authoritative style. Listen to this. This is the type of parenting which seeks the view of the child, maintains personal authority, but seeks problem solving. It's the type of parenting where they see mistakes as great ways to learn. It is the type of parenting that empowers the children to develop self-discipline and personal responsibility and to take ownership for their decisions. Let's take this example. You enter the room. The child has not performed their duties as far as washing the dishes. You come and you sit next to them. You make eye contact, same level. Calmly, not shouting, not screaming, not threatening. You tell them, using their name, what is it that we agreed? Can you tell me? They will say, well, I don't know, remind me. Say, what do you think? Allow them to express, allow them to actually admit or to talk about this. It's a conversation. It's dialogue. It's not monologue. Yes. It is also called an andragogic method, not pedagogic. Meaning what? Pedagogy is what I'm doing right now. You are sitting below and I'm telling you something. And it is monologue. Yes. Andragogy is when I sit at the same level and we have a discussion. Yes. So the parent says to the child, you agree that you're supposed to do these dishes. Yes. Why didn't you? What is that? Can you explain to me so that I can understand? Child may say, well, you know what, I forgot. The parent does not offer solutions. The parent invites the child to reflect upon what they did and asks them to express what they would like to do next. What do you think should happen? What is your opinion? Yes. Someone said to me once, are you joking? This is very difficult. Of course it's difficult. Of course, but this is very, very important. Why? Because one of the problems that we have, my dear sisters and brothers, in the relationship between parents and children is the lack of what is known as the parent-child connectedness. Please mark these words. We are told the parent-child connection is a super factor in determining the success of tarbiyah and upbringing. If you and I wish to have children at the age of bulugh who are able to respond to us and are able to perform their duties, we need to work to ensure that we have connected with them. Connection is absolutely vital. Now, this notion of connecting with our children is so delicate that it requires us to take some practical steps. Someone asks, how do I connect with my child? What are the symptoms that I should be observing that my child is not connected with me? I ask you, after bulugh, especially for boys, how many of us have seen examples whereby, for example, your 15-year-old son, you've just picked him up from college, or you've come back from work and he's sitting there on his phone, for example. And you say to him, Baba, how was your day? Good. What did you do today? Nothing much. Do you wish to eat? No, not really. And then they come and say, Maulana, he never speaks to me. It's always one-word answers. I say to them, when he was 5 and came to you with that toy or that drawing and said, Baba, look at this, what did you do? Because those are the ages in which we start to build that rapport. What happens? There are many of us today who are busy with their phones, busy with other things. And when children come to us, we don't give them attention. When children want that time, that quality time that we should be giving them, yes, we are too preoccupied. Either we've come back from work, or for example, we're in the kitchen busy. And now the child is learning that what? My parents don't have time for me. They don't want to speak to me. So when they're older, what happens? They don't wish to speak to you either. And as a result, they will not discuss with you any problems or challenges or issues. They will go to people that they feel will listen to them. Those are their friends, and God knows who their friends are, isn't it? So the first recognition in this particular regard is, if I want to develop that connection with my child so that when they reach bulugh, they're not all of a sudden shocked, they're not all of a sudden somehow not concerned, but rather it's a process by which we are working with together. I need to start much earlier. Because if I'm starting when they're 13, 14, the ship might have sailed. Yes, it needs to be from an early age, whereby I give them attention, I give them quality time, I focus, and I follow the next 4 steps. Tonight, inshallah, it's practical, so that we take away. Those of us who have children may be able to start applying it, but these are just snippets. There is a need to discuss this much more. But here I'm presenting 4 areas in which we can work on to develop a connection with our children so that we can have a successful phase of bulugh. The first area is the following, and that is to listen. Yes? Now sometimes listening is considered to be a passive process, isn't it? Because listening, many of us think that I'm just there and I'm just quiet and I just what? And I just hear them out. That is not what listening is. Sadly, when we come to understand listening, many of us listen to reply, not listen to understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Allah says the hearing, the vision, and the speech you are responsible for. Why did Allah start with the hearing? Because it is so powerful, yes? The problem is, many a times there is a process going through the minds of especially men. You know why? Because men, Allah has created them as solution-oriented. Whereas women more as process-oriented. Yes, scientists today show us. But today, us men, when we have a conversation, the first thing that comes to your mind is how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to make this situation better? Whereas for females, it's more about empathy, more about understanding. Yes, that's why some of our youngsters prefer to speak to their mothers rather than to their fathers, because fathers are quick to judge or quick to offer solutions. Whereas all they want is someone to hear them out. Right? The other thing about listening, which is very, very important, is that sometimes we think that listening is just being quiet. No. Listening, and the opposite of listening, is when we negate the feelings of our children. We tell them life is like this. We make it about us, or we try to fix things. This is the entire opposite of listening. Negate feelings meaning what? Don't be silly. This is nothing. This is the world. Allah will make you go through this. Deal with it. That is not listening. That is not empathy. That is not seeking to understand. Right? Similarly, if we say, you know what? Why are you saying to me this? When I was a child at your age, I went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went through so much more than you. So, deal with it. Because I did. So you should too. That is a mistake. That is unfortunately an error that some parents actually perform. Another aspect, the second area for us as parents to develop connection is compassion and love, without shadow of a doubt. Yes. And this time, there is also a discussion amongst people regarding what, how much love they offer to their children. This is also a matter that sometimes our brothers and fathers struggle with. So the man came to the Holy Prophet Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, all my life I've never hugged my son. Some people feel it's a masculine thing, natural. I'm not going to show love to my child because then it will show me to be weak. Some people still believe, yes. The Prophet of Islam says to him, whomsoever does not show mercy to their children, Allah will not show mercy to them. Yes. In other words, start from home. Yes. Show this love, and this love could be through different ways. How many today as parents, I ask you this question, know your son or daughter's love language? I tell you, sometimes we don't know as husband and wife what our love language is. There are people staring at me today thinking, what is this? What are you talking about? What love language? Very simply, some of you have heard of this concept. Very simply, as I'm speaking to you in English, if I switch to Arabic, some of you might understand, others may not. If I speak, for example, in a language that none of you understand, you'll say, what are you talking about? Similarly, love is expressed through different languages. There are people who want to be loved in a particular way. Not everyone receives or wants to receive love in a uniform manner. You say to me, what do you mean? This is scientific research. There are people who have written on this. Yes. For example, there are those who prefer quality time. There are those who prefer words of affirmation, praise. There are those who prefer physical touch. Yes, a hug. There are those, for example, who prefer acts of service. Meaning what? Meaning that you do something for them. There are those who prefer gifts. 5 different love languages. How do we know? Well, we have a discussion. There are quizzes that our children can do. Even our spouses can do, yes? So love can be expressed. And when the child is not feeling loved by the parent, that connection may not develop. That connection may not necessarily indeed enhanced. The third area, and notice Prophet Ibrahim ala nabiyina wa ala alihi wa alayhi afdal salatu wassalam, in the Holy Quran, I ask you this question. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him through a dream to slaughter his son Ismail, what would you have done when it comes to your own son or daughter? What would you have done? So they come and said, Allah has told me I have to slaughter you. Just come. Would you give your son and daughter a choice? Allah has told you to do it. You have no choice. I tell you, this is when it comes to slaughtering. When it comes to salah, is a much less of a hard objective, so to speak. But we're still forcing our children, aren't we? When it comes to this, he says to his son, Ya bunayya inni ara fil manami anni asbahuk fanzur mada tara. I saw in my dream that I have to slaughter you. What do you think? Ajib. Ibrahim is consulting his son Ismail on a command from Allah. Which type of parenting is this? Which style? The third. It's not authoritarian. It's not permissive. It's authoritative. He is consulting. He is discussing. He is seeking the opinion of his son. Despite it being an obligation. A major lesson for you and I. The third area of great importance when it comes to our connection with our children is what? Is to avoid shouting and being angry and constantly placing them in what? Minor or negative light. Is to calm ourselves. Is to think about long-term parenting rather than short-term solutions. What do you mean? Let me give an example because I know this is theoretical. I know this subject might not necessarily be easy to focus, but just focus with me in the next few minutes and you'll recognize how important this is. If, for example, a mother comes and her son tells her that I have lost my bike. Why? I forgot to chain it. And it's been stolen. Those who should think about short-term solutions will scream, how could you? How many times I've told you, why don't you ever listen to me? And the son will look at her and say, okay, what do I do now? She says, fine, this time I'm going to buy you one, another one. But this is the last time. Can you relate to this? That is, unfortunately, considered short-term water relief. But there are people who come forward and say there is a long-term parenting strategy. And that is to use problems in order to somehow develop the life skill ability of problem solving in the child themselves. So what does this refer to? To be calm, not to shout, but to ask him, why do you think this happened? How can you make sure this doesn't happen in the future? What do you think you should do now? Yes? To engage at that particular level. And the fourth area, very, very quickly, on how to develop a connection with our children is a useful tool that has been presented, and that is special time. What does special time mean? It means one-to-one. We develop and we place in our busy schedules one-to-one on a weekly basis. We could take our child out by himself or herself 20 minutes, yes, to do an activity which is fun. Walking, for example. Or when they're young, take them to the park, for example, yes. The child could decide the activity. And this is not a time to lecture or nag the child. This is a one-to-one opportunity to enhance rapport and to develop a relationship. Yes, and it could be an activity that they both enjoy. It could be something that enables the parent to develop their listening skills with the child. Final area to discuss in this regard is, very well, I will do this, but are there Islamic tips on ensuring that at the age of bulugh, my children practice their faith? Because I tell you, as parents, people panic. People say, you know what, my child's not praying. What am I supposed to do? Here, there are a number of very interesting recommendations in Islamic teachings. And very briefly, I'll mention some of them. Number one, if you want your child to adhere to Islamic teachings, make sure you do so yourself. Lead by example. Yes? In the idea that there are mu'mineen and mu'minat who don't want their children to watch haram, but sometimes they do themselves. Don't tell me they don't see me watch haram. Don't worry, they know. Yes? They will suss it out. Well, I watch it later at night, his Bollywood movie. Don't worry, they know. That's number one. Number two, very importantly, when it comes to their misconceptions or their general questions, do not be dismissive. Do not say the Mawlana said and just accept it. Yes, I said earlier that yes, when it comes to Islamic rulings, they may not be a basis, but this doesn't mean we dismiss our children. When it comes to our child, which comes forward at the age of 9 and says, I don't get why I should be wearing hijab, the answer should not be, God has said you should and therefore you should. This is what we've been taught. This is very well at the first level, but there needs to be an honest, frank discussion about the benefits of hijab, about the beauty of being in the footsteps of great individuals like Sayyidatul Nisa, like Sayyida Zainab and others, about how the Quran says it protects. Yes, you have seen the social experiments going around now, viral, over 10 million views. This person in New York, yes, she went round the various blocks in Manhattan without hijab. And she was intimidated, harassed by so many men. Then she wore, the same lady, she wore hijab, not niqab, just a hijab. She was not harassed by any single individual. Yes? We could give these examples, we could show these particular videos. Yes, ultimately we may not know the actual philosophy or the reason, but we need to try and not be dismissive of their questions and try to offer them actual solutions. Then there is the power of stories and relating to what role models. How amazing are the stories of prophets and the Imam alayhi salam. To be able from a young age to train them to be what? Desiring to listen to stories of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Yes, we're up against it because we don't have the productions as some companies have on Netflix, on CBBS and all these other outlets that are subliminally sending these messages of acceptance of certain practices. Yes, I know. We're far behind this. But alhamdulillah, we have some great work going on when it comes to storybooks. Yes. And in madrasa and so on and so forth. And the other area that we need to work on is to enhance in them the love of the Ahlul Bayt. But this, I know all of us will do without a shadow of a doubt. Because we recognize the status of Ahlul Bayt. Yes, we may bring them to majalis, we may encourage them to read about the biographies and the excellence of these holy individuals. But in many cases, our children may not relate to these holy individuals, may not necessarily be able to connect with them the way we do, and they struggle to understand some of the practices, some of the things that they witnessed in Muharram or they see in Ziyarah. What is absolutely key to appreciate and understand, it is a journey that must be undertaken by both the father and the mother as a joint effort. But there must be a plan. A plan to highlight the beautiful traits of these individuals and to focus on some characteristics that the child loves. Sometimes by emphasizing on this, we can what? We can enhance their connection with the Ahlul Bayt. You say, give me an example. Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali, Wallahi ta'ala alayhi, this companion of Amir al-Mu'minin, Ali ibn Abi Talib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. One day he comes home and he finds that his daughter is consuming honey. He asks her, where did you get this honey from? She said it was sent by Muawiyah. He looks at her. Does he shout? Does he say, how dare you? Authoritarian, I'm going to punish you. Why did you do this? I've never told you. He said to her, my dear daughter, can I tell you one thing? She said, what? He said to her, in reality, this is not honey. This is poison. She said, why? He said to her, Muawiyah wishes to take away the love of Ali from your heart. He's giving you this to poison your heart. The narration says she forcefully vomited the honey and said in lines of poetry, no one can remove the love of Ali from my heart. That is why it's of the utmost importance to relate to certain individuals in history, to be able to make our children connect with them. And amongst those individuals is this young daughter of Abu Abdullah, this 3-4-year-old daughter of Sayyid Shuhada. There is no doubt that the lovers of Ahlul Bayt have a special place in their hearts for Ruqayya Sakina, the daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Despite the fact that she left this world at such a tender young age, despite the fact that we don't have necessarily much information about her life, yet her remembrance brings out the sorrow and the grief in the hearts and minds of the lovers of the Ahl al-Bayt. I ask you, what crime did this young daughter of Hussein commit that she had to go through so much pain and suffering? Her life was very short, but she had to endure such pain, such difficulty, such torment and hardship. Allahu Akbar, how this daughter of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam would bear with all that she had to go through. The riwayat tell us that from the journey on the 10th of Muharram all the way to Sham, this young daughter of Imam was asking for one thing. She would constantly beg and besiege and want her father Abu Abdillah. She would say, where is my father? I want to see my father. And I tell you, the relationship that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had with Ruqayya was not just a normal relationship between a father and a daughter. It was a profound relationship because she was desperate. She was yearning to see her father. One station after the other, they would calm her. They would say to her, don't worry, don't worry. And she would ask, where is my father? Where is my father? One riwayah says to us that when they were carrying the holy head of Abu Abdillah on a spear, it would not move. So they tried to push it. Soldiers of Yazid tried to move it, but it would not move. They came to Imam Zayn al-Abidin. They said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, what is the reason? He said, the reason is the daughter of Hussein is missing. They look around, they see that she is not there. They begin to trace their steps back. They begin to go back in the desert where they were. They find her walking the opposite direction. They say to her, what are you doing? She said, I'm going back. Where are you going back? I want to go back to Medina. What is it in Medina? I saw my father Hussein in Medina. Take me back to my house. Where is my beloved father? That is why the riwayat tell us that in the dungeons of this La'in Yazid, that night, yes, on a night like this, narrations tell us that this young daughter of Imam, she was asleep. She was asleep, like perhaps some of the other children. The riwayah tells us that she saw her father in her dreams. All this time, perhaps she had not seen her father. This is the first time that Ruqayya sees her father in the dream. But I tell you, what did she see in her dream? She saw her father saying to her, my daughter, come towards me. Come towards me, you will see me very, very soon. I say to her, oh, this lady, oh lady, how did you see your father? As the poet says, did you see the stab wounds on his body? Did you see how his body was torn into pieces? Yes. Oh, Ruqayya, Sakina, how did you see your father? The riwayah tells us the moment she wakes up, she realizes it was a dream. This is a young daughter of Imam. She's only 3, she's only 4. Now she's even more eager, more desperate to see her. She calls out, Father, Father, Abada, Ya Aba Abdillah. Oh Hussein, Father, where can I see you? Where can I find you? The dungeons were quite a bit of a distance from the palace of Yazid. They were not right next to each other. Sometimes people say, how can this La'in hear the cries of the daughter of Imam? It was because the cries were so loud. It was because she was in pain. It was because she would not stop crying out, Abada wa Husayna. She would not stop crying and weeping. She would constantly ask, where is he, where is he, where is he? And so this wretched individual wakes up and says, who is this person crying? They say to him, this is the daughter of Hussein ibn Ali. What is it that she wants? What is it that she requests? They say to him, she wants her father, Abu Abdullah. He says, take the head of their father towards her. They come towards the dungeons. She is what? Presented with a bowl. The bowl is covered. The riwayah tells us the first person she looks at is Sayyida Zainab. She says, Auntie, I do not want any food. I did not request any food. I am not hungry. All I want is my father, Abu Abdullah. Now, this is the Ahl al-Bayt. They have tried to protect this young daughter from seeing the head of Imam al-Hussein during the journey. Yes, they tried to make sure that she does not look at the blessed head of the Imam on a spear. Now, the head is right in front of her. What does Sayyida Zainab say? What can she say to Sakina? What did she reply to this 3-year-old? Yes, she does not say anything according to the riwayah. Sayyida is right next to her, consoling her. At that moment, there is no other option but to remove the covering on the bowl. Allahu Akbar. How is it, the poet says, fair for a 3-year-old to see the severed head of her father? No child should look at that sight. Sakina looks at the head of her father in that state. No child had to bear the pain of losing their father. The riwayah tells us she was silent for a minute. She was shaken for a minute. She looked at the head. She was beginning to say, are you my father, Abu Abdullah? She then looked at the head of Imam al-Hussein. But what state was the head of Imam al-Hussein? Was the head of Imam al-Hussein washed? Was the head of Imam al-Hussein full of blood and tears? Was it full of dust? The riwayah tells us that she picked up her blessed hands, these young hands of Sakina. She began to rub the face of Abu Abdullah. She placed her hand on the beard of Imam al-Hussein. She began to wipe the dust of the forehead from Imam al-Hussein. She began to wipe some of the blood on the beard of Imam al-Hussein. She began to hug the head of Abu Abdullah. Allahu Akbar. This is the final moments of the life of this young daughter of the Imam. She began to cry. She began to say, oh Father, Father, who is it that severed your head? Oh Father, Father, why is it that there is blood on your beard? Oh Father, Father, who's made me a yatim? Oh Father, Father, who is it that's deprived me of you? The riwayah tells us that on the journey towards Sham, when the head of Imam al-Hussein was on a spear, it used to fall on the ground. When it used to fall on the ground, the soldiers of Yazid would not do anything. Why? They would ensure that the hooves of the horses step on the cheeks of Abu Abdullah. How did Sakina see the cheeks of Imam al-Hussein? No doubt the broken cheeks of her father. She hugged the head of Abu Abdullah. She cried so much that all the women of the Ahl al-Bayt would cry. She cried so much that everyone in the dungeons began to weep and cry. This was a musibah. Karbala. This was a tragedy. Now the voices of their crying was so much that they would no longer hear this young daughter of Imam Ruqayya crying anymore. Because can you imagine Sayyidah Zainab crying, Kulthum crying, Imam Zain al-Abidin crying, the other women crying. This is a musibah. Now she is seeing the father. Now she is bidding farewell. All of a sudden, after a few moments, when the crying begins to subside, Imam Zain al-Abidin looks at this young sister of his. Sayyidah Zainab looks at this young niece of hers. Now they look at her. She is hugging the head, but she is not moving. There is no movement. Now there is no tears. Now there is no sound. Sayyidah Zainab looks at Imam Zain al-Abidin. The riwayah says, Sayyidah says, my nephew, what has happened? Tell me, what is happening here? Imam says, my auntie Zainab, come and take the lifeless body of my sister. The riwayah tells us they looked at her. She had left this world. I tell you, that young heart of Sakina could not bear seeing what the head of Abu Abdullah. This life was now too much for this daughter of Imam al-Hussein. May Allah help the heart of Zainab. This heart of Zainab, what did she have to see? Yes, we say Sakina, you saw Abu Abdullah's head and you left this world. Imam Zain al-Abidin, Sayyidah Zainab's heart. What did their heart have to see? They had to see the arrow in the eyes of Abbas. They had to see the split head of Akbar. They had to see the torn bodies of Awn and Muhammad. That heart of Zainab had to see Shimmer sit on the chest. The riwayah tells us Sayyidah Zainab took the body, placed it on their ground. The women gathered around. There was now even more crying. They've lost another member of Ahl al-Bayt. Sayyidah Zainab tries to console them, tries to calm them. Then she looks out. She says, is there anyone who will wash the body of this young daughter? This is Yatima of Hussein. Please, I ask you to wash her body. Then there is a lady who heard. She says, fine, I will do so. The body, this young 3-year-old, now the body is given. Now in the dungeon, can you imagine? Sakina is gone. Now they are crying. Now they are mourning. That night is a night of musibah for Ahl al-Bayt. It's the night of grief for Ahl al-Bayt. After a short period, this woman comes back. This lady who took the body of Sakina comes back. Says to Sayyidah Zainab, please forgive me. I cannot wash the body of this girl. Sayyidah says, why? Why can't you do it? She says, please forgive me. She has a skin illness. I cannot wash her body. She says, what do you mean she has a skin illness? She says, when I looked at her body, she has so many purple patches on her body. When I looked at her shoulders, she had purple everywhere. When I looked at her back, she had purple everywhere. When I looked at her feet, she had purple everywhere. Sayyidah begins to cry, Wallah, this is not a skin disease. This is the whips of Shimr. This is the spears. This is the sticks of the soldiers of Yazid. Tonight your hearts are in Damascus. At the grave of Sayyidah Ruqayya Sakina. Some of us have been blessed to be there. There is a special place for the mu'mineen, for the lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when they remember his madhuma daughter. Ya Allah, grant us tawfiq to perform the ziyarah of the shrine of Sayyidah Sakina. Ya Rabbil Alameen, allow us to visit the shrine of Sayyidah Sakina. Ya Allah, we beseech you, and we ask you to help all the mu'mineen and mu'minat who are parents in our community, to be the most effective parents in your eyes. Ya Allah, grant them success in this role. Ya Rabbil Alameen, allow us to develop systems and mechanisms to support the parents wherever we are. Ya Allah, we ask you to grant us the opportunity to visit the shrine of Sayyid Shuhada in Karbala and to attain the Shafa'ah on the day of Qiyamah. Back to Hussein. Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
विदा सर से चीनी मैं सदा देती रही सुनाया बाजी विदा सर से चीनी मैं सदा देती रही सुनाया बाजी विदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा तेरी सुनाया विदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा तेरी सुनाया तुमको पानी ना मिले तेरी खुशबू तो रहे तेरे बाजू ना कटे चाहे मशकी साच दे ये मगर हो न सका तेरे बाजू है जुदा मुझ पे है सुनाया विदा सर से चली मैं सदा तेरी सुनाया विदा सर से चली मैं सदा तेरी सुनाया कैद खाने में कज़ा जब सकीना को मिली देख के कुर्ते का कफन बच्ची दफना गई करीना तेरा सूरत नाले अली दुख में दोहरा सुनाया विदा सर से चली मैं सदा सुनाया विदा सर से चली मैं सदा सुनाया धूप में टूटा शजर तुझसे आवाज था कर है बरहना मेरा सर क्या नहीं तुझको खबर है अलमदार वफा बहन को बाखुदा तुझसे दाया सुनाया विदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा तेरी सुनाया विदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा तेरी सुनाया कितनी बेबासी बहन शहनशाह वफा नाम ले के मेरा जब ये जालिम ने कहा नाज था जिससे के तुझे बुलाओ नाम से और में रोटी बनाया कबला सर से चुनी मैं सदा बनाया कबला सर से चुनी मैं सदा क्या कहूँ शेर मेरी दाम बोलिए ये मुसलमान सारे दर शहरी गए कते कूफा कभी कते शाम कभी और हम आया सर से चुनी सदा दे बनाया सर से चुनी मैं सदा दे बनाया
सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। 3 दिन गुजरे खड़ी है, 3 दिन गुजरे खड़ी है फातिमा की बेटिया। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद शाम वाले हंस रहे हैं बेकसों को देख कर, है चरागा चार सज रहे हैं पामुदर। बाबे साथ कर रुका है बेकसों का कारवां। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। खून रोता है जवाब दे उसको ये एहसास है। फातिमा ज़हरा की चादर शामियों के पास है। देख कर कहती है ज़ैनब, देख कर कहती है ज़ैनब मेरे गाज़ी हो कहाँ। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान। सर अली अकबर का नेज़े पर उठाते हैं शकीक। सुन चुकी 17 गाने बेरिया बिनते अली। रो रही है हर अदा सुन कर अली अकबर की माँ। सामने दरबार के गैरते सजाद का है ये कैसा
सामने दरबार के गैर से सजाद का मिसले ज़हरा सर झुकाए शामियों में आ गई 4 बरसों में सकीना पर सही पिता गई कान भी सकती है कानों पर तमाचों के निशान सामने दरबार के ऐसे सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान सामने दरबार के ऐसे सजाद का है ये कैसा खून के आंसू टपकते हैं सरे शबीर से पूछती है जब सकीना ज़ैनबे दिलगीर से ए खुफी अम्मा यहाँ से ए खुफी अम्मा यहाँ से कब चलेगा कारवां सामने दरबार के गैर सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान सामने दरबार के गैर सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान सामने दरबार के गैर सजाद का है ये कैसा इम्तिहान
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريتك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته
اللهم لوليك حجة ابن حسن صلواتك عليهم وعلى آبائهم في هذه الساعة في كل ساعة وإمدادا وحافظا وخالدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تدخله أرزك توا وتمتعه فيها سبيلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
Can I please kindly request you to take your seats and please follow the instructions of the marshals and volunteers with regards to leaving the centre at sense. Can I also request you to please kindly join me in reciting 5 times the verse Amma Yujib al-Mukhtar for Brother Muhammad Jafar Jagani, who is currently unwell and in intensive care in Mombasa, the grandfather of Sarwar Jagani. Can I please ask all of you to join me in the recitation? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. And please request to end the program one Surah Al-Fatiha or the Dua of Al-Mu'min, Surah Al-Barakah Al-Fatiha.